Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. This is going to be a long-awaited episode. But before we get started, um, I want to point out uh, our guest for this episode. So we have Jolene, and
Hi.
is your first time here.
Yep. Um,
I am
I'm excited
excited.
to be here.
We have talked so much for so long, and I don't know how that escaped us.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
Robert had been fighting to have me on Doctor Who for so long. Maybe that's why.
yeah, like scheduling and stuff, and then like topics. The sci-fi is such a wide range of topics. It's hard to nail down just one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's true, but
So
I mean,
I'm,
it's
I'm re-
it's fun when things go on plan, right?
yeah. Yeah. And we have this for this episode. We have a, let me call it a secret guest, because the guest will be an audio only, and it is actually my wife, first time on our show, Rocio.
Hi.
I'm excited.
Yay!
So before we continue, let's start with our segments.
Define science fiction remnant.
Okay, so just like we do in every episode, we our idea behind it is, if you had to describe the show to someone that doesn't quite know us, but you think they might like our show, how would you describe to them? And I can quote on Twitter, Mr. Robles 1939 says, "Science fiction remnant are perfect for the '80s junkie." What do you guys think?
That's a really good description. I think that's a great description.
It
I
well,
mean, that was like the booming of science fiction becoming an actual big movement, if you might think of it. Before that, it was more like a nitpick group of fans loving something, but then it started growing. I mean, you can see that when we watch Ready Player One, for example. Like that's the birth of what science fiction became to was the 80s.
I also
So
think
yeah.
that he's you can tell that he has listened to every episode, because if you think about it, most of the episode, which was unintentionally, we cover a lot of like '80s sci-fi. You
Well,
Hmm.
know,
you can't like how can you not? Like my birth year, E.T. was the number one movie in '82. The '80s and '90s had so many sci-fi things. Quantum Leap.
oh yeah,
Um, you remember Quantum Leap, and then the other one where the oh what was it? Oh, the one where the dude goes to parallel universes. I forgot the name.
oh yes.
With
Yeah,
with who? With Frequency?
No, 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 no. It
no,
was
it's an older one,
With Keanu
but
Reeves?
no.
oh no, it's a TV show. It's an, I know
Oh,
what you're talking about. It's gonna bug me
Yeah,
when it
I
comes up. I'll let you know. But
yeah.
it's
I
Robert
gonna
won't
bug me.
Robert
miss
won't sleep until he finds out what it is now.
I never missed an episode of that. It was
Sliders. Yes.
Sliders. I never missed an episode of Sliders. See, I mean, so you had like ET, Quantum Leap, Sliders, Stargate, Stargate Atlantis. You had all the Star Treks. The Star Trek Voyager, my favorite, Captain Janeway. A, you know, and then of course Doctor Who classic.
Oh yes.
You got the classic Doctor Who, and then in the was it 2010 there was a reboot of the Doctor Who's. Oh, X Files.
Oh yes. Yes.
You cannot talk about sci-fi. Yep, exactly. Without talking about the 80s and 90s.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And I'll tell you, like that show, Sliders, no idea what it is. So we might just have you back for one episode of Sliders.
It's a
I'm
really
so
good
like
show.
I love Sliders. Though like I never missed it. And
Eh, eh,
then,
no, no, tell me, finish.
oh no, I was gonna say, not to mention the movies. You got the Alien movies.
Oh yeah.
Oh
You have
yes, yes, yes.
the
Those I
E,
watch.
yeah, the ETs, aliens, AI. Like so much sci-fi movies.
It's amazing. We talked about it in the last episode where, when they're talking about, they're going to do Logan's Run, and Logan's Run kind of was put on hold because they said, sci-fi is going to die out. And then you had
So they thought.
Soylent Green come up and Westworld come up, and there was like big, huge win in the box office. It's like, oops, I guess sci-fi is not dying out, and so they started back with Logan's Run. But yeah, I think that was like '76. So and then after 1978 with Star Wars, it just boomed.
And don't forget the 1990s Roswell.
Roswell.
Yep, you remember that? And then they did a reboot too. So sci-fi will never die.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad for that. Okay, so we're gonna go into the next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are MonoRants.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is sci-fi.
Awesome. So for this segment, basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to communicate to all creators, all fans, that we should all get together and continue the conversations, not just on this podcast, for any other podcast that covers sci-fi, under the hashtag This is Sci-Fi, um, and just start a conversation. I mean, I would love to talk about most of the stuff that we talked about in our show, and most of the stuff that I've seen in other podcasts that deal with sci-fi, and just joining the conversation. So basically, just joining the hashtag. We also have a Discord if you like, where you can join in. It is not as big as it should be right now, but um, the whole idea is just start a conversation about sci-fi and get all together under one umbrella. um, and I'm going to start with Giancarlo's. And I know I ask you this in every episode. What does that mean to you? The idea of having everybody just one location, across podcasts, across creators, where all fans can come together and enjoy something that we all love, sci-fi.
To me, it's the place where it's a judgment-free place. It's my happy place, really. I mean, it doesn't matter uh, what you like. I like the other day, like Max actually was telling me about an anime that he wanted me to watch. He was like, "Oh, they have some weirdness and stuff. I hope you don't mind." I was like, "Man, no, I freaking love it. I like a Japanese. I like to actually throw out there all the taboos and play with them." So like that's what happens in the community of science fiction lovers is like when you really love that and you're passionate about it, there's no weirdness, there's no judgment about it. There's just like a common ground where everybody just like the same thing and likes to explore more about it. You always like when you like that feeling like I don't know, like besides falling in love, the next thing is like finding a good show that you can binge watch and then you feel empty after you finish it. You're like, oh no, no more episodes.
Yeah, and, yeah. And you pointed out a good point too. It's like sometimes um, we discover things.
Yeah.
Like you just discovered something that you were never aware of, unless you were following that tag or having a conversation with other fans. Yulene, what I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to join into, and what would that mean to you?
Uh, a sense of belonging. Honestly, you said judgment-free zone. Also, without gatekeepers to the fandom. Like Star Wars fandom is so difficult because there are people who like the OG Star Wars like me, and then people who, like the new reboots of the Star Wars and then the Star Wars show. So Star Wars is one of those fandoms where there's a lot of gatekeepers, but it's okay, like in your Discord or in a convention. This is some place where you can just be a fan without
Yeah.
having to prove that you're a fan. People just accept you. It's like finding a second family, and
Awesome.
it's really cool. And there's so many brands of sci-fi. It's not like if one thing's not for you, then you can just kind of slide into something else.
Yes, I
I mean,
100% agree.
just to second that, it's like that difference between going in the middle of New York streets dressed up like a Jedi and going into a Comic Con doing the same thing. You're gonna be looking with weird looks in Manhattan with that dress code, but in the Comic Con, it's like, whoa, that's so freaking cool. Everybody likes it.
Yeah, and there's something for everyone. I was pregnant
Yes.
with my daughter when I went to Connecticut, and I was huge. My daughter was a big baby, so I went dressed up like the TARDIS. I went dressed up like the TARDIS, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna look like such a loser." Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, who is this huge pregnant chick here?" And you know what? No one better than I got hit on by like a few like doctors, a few people cosplaying as a doctor, and it was so
How
funny.
many? How many of them wanted to pick up the line and talk to you?
See, this is so this slide up. I've been looking all over for you. Is it really bigger on the inside? And I was
Oh
like,
my god!
yep. I was like, I have a companion
Can't
too.
blame
I
them.
come with a
I can't blame
companion.
them.
Nice.
Those puns are hard to be happy.
But I chose the TARDIS because of I had a passenger. So I was like, I could say it's bigger on the inside.
Nice, nice. Okay, so we're gonna move along to the next segment.
Shoutouts.
Go ahead,
Well,
Jim.
so I want to take this space to actually do a special thanks to Ben Nichols podcast for participating in our show by following us on Twitter, retweeting our tweets actually, and giving us mention to their following to let them know of our podcast together with another group of fantastic podcasts that they actually share with everybody for a good suggestion. And somebody actually special that we need to have in our show soon enough is the Manic Pixie Weirdo podcast. She
Oh
also
my
give
god.
us great support all the time,
I
so we
love
appreciate
her.
it.
Hi
She's
Abby.
fantastic.
Yeah,
So
she's
so
gonna be in future episodes, definitely.
Oh, I can't
definitely,
wait for that. I would
I mean,
definitely
her
all the
support
way
is
down.
invaluable to us, and we do appreciate her participation and also throwing forward the word about us. Definitely. And another person that actually we got them through our dear Nikki is Big Nick. And I actually do appreciate also his constant support, how he has expressed so many times how he enjoy our talks and also listening to our podcast. We hope that he continues to do so. I'll try to be as silly as possible. So, I mean, we'll make it funny too. Thank you, and that'll be all for now.
Nice, nice. Uh, and I'm going to invite you, Jolene, if you want to, join into the shout outs.
Oh,
It's up to
heck.
you.
Oh, you already know. Shout out to Derek from Ratchet Book Club. Shout out to Best Film Ever who just had me on their show. I love you guys. Never miss a show. Shout out to the Paranormal Burrito. That's Caleb, Tina, Mission Spooky and Spooky Tales. That's Christina. I'm obsessed with Spooky Tales TikTok. I cannot resist checking it out. So bad. Um,
They have a TikTok.
oh yeah, they got TikTok and it's
Oh,
amazing.
you giving me that? You
You
giving me
gotta
that?
check it out. You gotta check it out. It's so cool. The last one she did was so funny. She was like, "Spirits, spirits. Does this sound like Shakira?" And then she sang. I was like, "Oh." I'm telling their TikTok and Spooky Tales TikTok is the best. I love their TikTok. So yeah,
Nice.
Best film ever, Caleb, Tina, everybody in the Pocket family, Holla, that's Ashley, Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss, uh, so oh, Crime Diner, uh, that's the girls from Crime Diner. Shout out to y'all, and everyone else that shows me love on a daily basis. Backlook Cinema, thanks for having me on your show yesterday. Uh, yeah, Bill
Awesome.
Ray, have me on your show on Tuesday.
That is
Gee,
a that is an amazing thing about the Bud family. We have such a supportive family. It's incredible, and there's just so many of us.
definitely. Potter and Family it's like anything you could possibly need with all things podcasting. Next on stage one, she does like spaces all the time to it's called I Project Podcast. That's what it's called.
Yes, yes, Pixie, she's amazing.
She's wonderful.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next segment.
The Outer Remnant.
And this is the section where we mentioned other podcasts that we had been in. I'm going to do another shout out to Sudden But Inevitable on my appearance on Cowboy Bebop. Um, and this is one show that I'm very sad about. And I was really happy that they were able to give me a voice um, to voice basically my discontent. And but I really love the show, and I just hope for a season two, just like Alita.
Yeah, they just made her feel like, okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
And you're talking about Cowboy Bebop, the anime or the live action?
The live
The
action.
live action.
Um,
Yeah.
I was first introduced to Cowboy Bebop with the anime. So like the
Yeah.
live action, it was difficult for me to watch. Like it wasn't my favorite thing. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I didn't
So I
love it
want to
either.
have an anime episode with you because you can ask Robert. Like, I am crazy about Cowboy Bebop. I actually
Yes.
have all Yoko Kano's discography. Like, that's how much I love Cowboy Bebop. It's one of my favorite musics. Is their OSTs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Awesome. I don't know if you want to mention an appearance that you had recently, Julene.
Oh, okay. So I appeared on Best Film Ever today. That was so much fun. We talked about Django.
Nice.
And I always love to talk about movies that amplify black voices, tell black stories, and talk about the black experience. And this was a Quentin Tarantino film, so I love Quentin Tarantino.
Oh,
I,
he's the
I
best.
re- I love the take that they did in that movie. It was amazing. It was really
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, I really love it a lot, and there's a lot to be said for the balance. I was uncomfortable. Well, I talked about it on the show. What part of it made me uncomfortable, and what part of it was like I was like, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
See,
So
but he
you know
touches a
what
lot
that
of
means.
important internal issues, like how the butler, he would screw his own people over, or
yeah,
things like that.
yeah,
Like the injustice within the same type of community also exists too.
yep,
Yeah, I
yep.
mean, it touches so.
Well, there he goes. So, but you know what that basically means is that our listeners, they gotta go find that episode and listen to it, so
Yep.
we
Yeah,
can get.
they should.
It comes out, I believe here in the U.S. In California, it always comes out around 10 o'clock
Okay.
on a Monday. So do it, do the math as you will.
Yes. Yes.
And it's called Best Film Ever Pod, and they're really great. Like I'm a Patreon of theirs too.
Awesome,
I
awesome.
even bought the T-shirt.
And yeah, and thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. So let's see. We're gonna go ahead and start the show. Um, and today we're talking about Doctor Who. This would technically be our second episode. Well,
Who?
third episode. Third.
Who?
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 Doctor Who.
Who?
It is season 2, episode 13, called Doomsday. And I'm just going to kind of briefly read the blurb from IMDb. It basically says Earth becomes a battleground for the Daleks and the Cybermen. With the whole planet at stake and the Genesis Ark activated, how much will the Doctor sacrifice in order to end the war? That I would have to start by saying that still remains to be a very sentimental episode for me.
Oh yeah, that episode destroyed my heart. I was like, no, oh, crying. Can I just say, you're drinking out of that cup with the smoke in it, and it just looks so cool.
You might want to describe it, Giancarlos, for the audio listeners.
Well, first off, because it has to go on record, you're drinking one of the things that are more damaging and I love the most. Monster. I love it.
Hey,
And that flavor is actually very good. I think it's that festival something, right?
no, it's like Paradise Ultra.
Paradise Ultra.
It,
Yeah, I
it
tried it,
tastes
man. It
like a
was
Jolly
good.
Rancher. It tastes like a
It's
Jolly
good.
Rancher. I love it.
Yeah, there's one that is a turquoise color too that is very good. I think that's the one that is Paradise something. They just have so many good tastes. But I mean, going back to the about the episode, I mean, I do get what you guys feel is sentimental. I think that Julian is just like you, Robert. Like you guys invest yourself a lot on the characters.
Well,
So
I don't think it's that, as much as that. I think it's the fact that we have gone the entire length of season 1 and basically the entire length of season 3.
you grown
I mean
attached to
season
Rose.
2. Season 2, and you have time vested on the characters.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
invest yourself in the character because I mean, if you watch The Walking Dead, you know that anybody can die any freaking second. So you done. But in here,
Well,
like you grow closer to the personalities with him because every time that he changes, is completely different to which I've noticed.
yeah, with the doctor, it's you can't like you have a favorite doctor, but you can't get attached to that doctor.
Yeah.
Every time the doctor would change, I would just need like a week or two to like be like, no, 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 this is not my doctor, not my doctor.
This is not my doctor.
But Rose Tyler, I was really Billy Piper does a fantastic job as Rose Tyler. Now, I remember I saw her in Confessions of a London Call Girl, and you know who was in that? Matt Smith. Matt Smith made an appearance
Nice.
on that show, and she is just fantastic in this. From when she meets Chris Eccleston to when Chris Eccleston becomes the only doctor that matters, David Tennant. And I love how every doctor has their own little thing, their quirk, their fashion.
Are we starting a fight?
Are we?
Mm.
I don't know.
That's a beautiful thing about Doctor Who, though. It's all about diversity too.
Well, the reason why I'm saying is everybody has a favorite Doctor Who, and I find
Yes.
out when I said that David Tennant is mine. Yeah, I kind of get some.
I mean, this Doctor Who for this episode, like aside this job as being Doctor Who, like that's one thing that Robert and I have like an antagonist view on. Like he likes heroes. My heroes are the villains. So like from Batman, my hero is a Joker, you know, and this guy he's done one of the best roles in several movies. as villains in shows. Like in Jessica Jones, he's amazing. In Harry Potter, he did a great job too. In The Prisoner of Azkaban, being also a villain. Like this actor, like he's fantastic. And seeing him doing also a benevolent character just show how far he can go, how amazing he is too. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's not hard to understand why you will fall in love with the character too. I mean, it's just a
yeah.
stellar job.
He is an amazing actor, and I'll be honest. After season one, when they killed Kilgrave, I was like, I can't watch this anymore. Kilgrave was the big bad, and she like they killed him. So what's left? What's left? Did David Tennant ruin Jessica Jones for me?
But
Uh,
I think that this is one of the beautiful things about the story behind Doctor Who uh, is that it's just a reflex again. But basically, it creates that emotional security that he cannot die. He's an everlasting being. So even though his face changes, in essence, you still have the same person, which makes it more difficult because it changes a little bit personality. But all those actors have to stay on that character, even though
No,
they're
that's
different
that's
people.
not true. They can only re-emerge. They can only re-emerge, I think, 11
Yes.
times or 12 times. But there's always something in the story, like when the leaders of Gallifrey gave Matt Smith's doctor their lives, so he was able to, I keep wanting to call it
regenerate.
regenerate again.
Respawn.
Yeah,
Imagine
he
it's a game.
was yeah, he was able to regenerate again, but since that was his 12th regeneration, if they hadn't given up their regenerations to him, he would have been done. He would have just been old ass Doctor Who and he'd have been done.
Yeah, yeah.
How about Daleks?
The Daleks.
The Daleks and the Cybermen. Well, I was impressed
Oh,
that Daleks has more power to fight than the.
Oh yeah. My wife was just wondering because it's if you think about it, I think this is one of the few times where the Doctor faces two antagonists at
yep.
once, and we get to see how the Daleks and the Cybermen, who's actually stronger, and it's kind of scary that the Daleks are actually stronger than the Cybermen based on the what we get to see in this episode.
Well, yeah, but also what I found in this episode interesting is how the human being was able to override the reprogramming of the Cybermen.
Yeah,
She said for God, Queen, and country, and she just kept repeating that, and she helped them.
that is the power of human will.
Yep.
And it was amazing because you could see, she was scared going into that machine that would basically take her brain and put it into a Cyberman. But she kept on repeating, I did my part for Queen and Country,
Yeah.
and that was
Yeah.
actually it. It was very sentimental when I found out because you don't really immediately know. You see these Cybermen shooting other Cybermen, and then you're like, "What's going on?" And then you hear,
I
"I
noticed right
did my
away.
job for king and country," and you're like, "Oh my God!" It was I think she was the head of Torchwood.
Hmm.
Yep. I cried my eyes out. I was like, oh God, see, that's the power of the human sentiment. That's the human will at play. So
And,
that whole episode just made me cry all the time.
and it makes me wonder this, human will and the human brain. I know that their Cybermen take away, and this is something that I'm not 100% sure. Maybe because I haven't watched the old Doctor Who's, or maybe I haven't read enough books. All I seen is a new Doctor Who from the beginning to end, multiple times. Amazing. But I'm not sure exactly what method they use to rid. human brain from emotions and turning into a Cyberman. But it's kind of hard for me to understand that it would there would be some sort of external source in the brain blocking maybe electrical impulses for whatever emotion
Hmm.
um it it's in the brain. But
Hmm.
if we, me and Giancarlos have talked about, the power of the human brain, especially on their trauma, and how it actually adjusts itself, and if there's some pathways that are broken, it finds other pathways. It might not be exactly the same how it was before, but it makes what it can do to make it work for whatever it
Here,
has available.
here's the paradoxical thing about that analysis is that regardless, the brain's not gonna be the same even tomorrow, for better or worse. That's the beauty. That's the funny thing that we don't realize. The meaning of life is that it's ever changing,
Yeah.
for better or worse. So at the end of the day, life is challenge. If you're not,
Oh, and he goes
Oh.
again.
Well, I was gonna say there's an episode of Doctor Who that's I think it's Peter Capaldi's Doctor,
Hmm.
where they're on a ship and they go back and time works different on one level as opposed to the top level, and on the bottom level it's a mad doctor or whatever replacing human beings parts with robot parts. And then they do it, and then they're like, oh, they're gonna yeah, it was a Capaldi episode because look, they all say they're gonna invade the top part of the spaceship or whatever. And then but the mad scientist or whatever, him turning the people parts into robotic parts brings on like the birth of the Cybermen. I remember because Missy was the master, like the master. She helped. She helped, and she got like shot up and died in that episode. Died in that episode.
Yeah.
So that's the where the Cybermen came from.
I mean, I just hope we are upon the cyberpunk time and not working like this. Like,
Yeah. you know if you think
like
about
the
it,
robot
that
dance.
you bring a really good point. That's technically cyberpunk. And that, when was the first Cyberman? We're talking.
I will venture to say that's the outdated thought of what cyberpunk was going to evolve to. Because that's the beauty about sci-fi that I actually mentioned in the last episode, and it just keeps it's gonna keep on coming. The beautiful thing about sci-fi is that it reflects our vision of what the future is supposed to look in
Yeah.
that time when we were at the present time that it was filmed or anything or written.
But if you think about this for a minute, in the cyberpunk world or universe, or whichever word you choose, um, you get to replace whatever part you want to make you better, right?
Yeah,
And you can replace an arm, and you can replace a leg so you can run
I
faster, an eye so you can read or look better. And where do you stop? And this is where I'm coming from when I talk about the Cybermen being probably the future or cyberpunk, because there's always something. There's always something you want to replace. There's always something you can be better. There's always something you want to do to make yourself better. And eventually, you're going to run out of human parts,
yeah.
and the only thing left will be the brain.
Some people
So,
are like that now. Some people are like, have you seen some of these celebrities? What I said, some of parts of them are like 30 years old. Other parts are newer.
but
Hmm.
but you see what I'm talking about, right? The
Absolutely.
Yeah.
in saying that, this is why I find it so fascinating about the world of Doctor Who, is that they were able to visualize this back in, when was the first Doctor Who? And I'm very ignorant when it comes to that because I haven't seen the original. I'm still planning to watch it, but back then they had
It
this
was
idea.
the 60s. Wasn't Doctor Who back in the 60s? I feel like the original Doctor Who was in the 60s sometime.
But yeah, that's what I was.
I'll have to look it up right now.
Yeah, I will venture to say because I think that Robert told me the same thing when he was uh, kind of indoctrinating me into it. There
it was it was 1966.
you
Oh,
go.
okay, there
So
you
A
it
little
was,
bit before Jane Fonda did a great appearance on TV.
yeah.
go.
So Giancarlo, I wanted to ask. Um, I know you haven't had time to watch. There's so many other shows that you're watching.
I mean, you can say it out loud. I have a tough time with campiness, but I am getting around it.
Well, yeah,
It's okay. I'm
I,
not ashamed of it.
and I
I
see,
don't judge it.
yeah, and I see that from some of the movies and shows that you're watching lately. Um, but I'm really kind of curious to see, your thought. Granted, this probably would be out of sequence for you, because we were doing this one to prepare for this episode. But um, what is your thought so far? This is actually the second in the timeline. Is actually the 10th Doctor, but is in the new you know s- show that I'm showing you. And this is actually the second appearance of a different Doctor. So you've seen, I think, the first episode with the
I
first
actually
Doctor.
seen the first Doctor. I liked him. I've seen the second one. I think after him, I saw also the other one that is a younger guy too. I really liked him too. He goes right after him, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, I jumped all the way to the one that was before the last one.
Okay.
That
So
I watched a couple of episodes with you too.
so
Okay,
you watched a couple of episodes. You haven't watched everything in
The female
order.
doctor, the one before her, I remember it was.
Peter
I mean, I don't know.
Capaldi.
Huh?
Peter Capaldi.
Yes, and I really liked him. I mean, he's amazing too. I mean, personality. This is one thing about Doctor Who as a character that makes probably enjoyable yet a tougher job for the actors is he's all about personality, all
I
about it.
Peter Capaldi is probably like a less popular doctor, but it's because he was so different from the other doctors. When Matt Smith, died and became Peter Capaldi or whatever, he turned into he was a bit of a curmudgeon. Like David Tennant was like, okay, so he says he's ready to go. He says, Allons-y. Then you got Matt Smith, who's lively, Geronimo, whatever. Then you get Peter Capaldi, who's like a grumpy old man.
Don't
Yep.
bother me.
Yeah, he's like, don't bother me right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's really cool.
I
I
gotta
do.
second that. Yeah, I agree.
And the cool thing, I think one of the coolest thing that I find about that actor is the fact that he was the biggest Doctor Who fan ever. And I don't know if you
Really?
guys heard. I don't know if you guys heard
Yeah.
about this, but when he was younger, he followed Doctor Who. Like, he's like the biggest fan. He had every poster, every book, every radio drama, and he actually wanted to be part of um, the Doctor Who fan club. I believe, I can't remember. It was a fan club that they have for Doctor Who, and to show his age, he would send a letter saying how he could, he's like the biggest fan, and he could be. I can't remember what position he wanted to do. It was a treasurer or something like that on that. But he was telling them the qualifications. He's like, he has everything. He knows everything about Doctor Who, and they denied his application.
What?
And I saw, and I saw another interview later. After he became Doctor Who, is like, okay, where's that person now?
I bet they feel so silly. Like,
He was
Now
like,
he
no.
is
catch
Doctor
me
Who.
outside.
What had happened was,
No, it
Wait,
but
wasn't
you were
me.
saying? You were
It was
saying?
my secretary. Didn't
yeah, it was my assistant. We're just gonna blame the assistant.
But he was very sporty. He doesn't have any ill resentment. Basically, so it was a long time ago. But I found that story to be so amazing that you have a true fan become the thing that they were a fan of.
That's very
I,
meta.
Yeah,
it's like tr- that's like a dream come true.
Oh,
Like a fantasy.
oh
what
yeah.
was that band Journey? Or was it Arnie Pineda?
Don't start
He
believing.
Yeah, he was the biggest Journey fan, and he ended up singing for Journey.
wow,
So
yeah,
it's kind of like one of those like dream come true kind of stories.
nice.
Definitely.
So, I think Giancarlo's, you've seen most of the, or you've seen all of the different doctors, and
No, I haven't seen all of them.
no, I mean, what I'm trying to say is because I haven't seen the old ones. So out of the
No,
new
no, the old
ones,
ones, no. Out of the new ones, I think the first one, the second one, the third one, and then the two last ones.
okay. Um, which one would you venture to say is your favorite if you have to pick one? It's kind of like, I know
You
this
know,
might be
that's that,
something
that's
hard
the
for.
that's the conundrum between trying to pick a favorite Doctor Who. They're the same person. It's just a different face and a
A different
different
person
and a different face.
and personality.
It's like me. It's like you asking me which Robert I like better, the one I met at the beginning, the one that were in the middle, or the one that I know now. You know, you know. But I mean, it's just a different face. But it's like that's what that actually prized all these actors and actresses, because at the end of the day, whoever undertakes Doctor Who has to stay on character, and he's all about personality. And even though it's a different face, we try to actually think it's a different person because it has a different face. It's not, you know, the way the train of thought, the way they think, their problem solving skills, they staying under the Doctor Who character.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually not different.
Very, very nice response to try to keep away from the haters.
I mean,
I applaud
I
you.
I don't care much about the haters. This is a video
Nah,
about
I
not
ain't never
giving a
scared.
crap
I
about
ain't
what
never
other
scared.
things. How do you feel about that, Julie?
What? Haters?
No, no
Okay.
haters. Fuck them. How do you feel about my response? Like, do you agree? Or how do you think about which is your
I mean,
favorite one?
no, I feel like you're right to a point, but the reason why fans love Who so much is with every single new doctor, there's like a new personality thing. Like
Yes.
Jodie
New
Whittaker, her
quirks and
thing
stuff like
was
that.
yeah, her thing was tinkering. Peter Capaldi, it was like the glasses and the rock and roll, you know, Matt Smith, it was the absolutely almost whimsical way he could never stay on task. David Tennant, it's like this, he when he comes up with a solution to the problem, it's like he's there, he's got it, and he has this singular focus, and no matter what throws a wrench in it, he gets it done, and he's able to get it done through he has like a big heart. He's able to get it done without really harming too many like unnecessary people. He's all about
Yeah.
peace. He's got the Vans, the trench coat. That's unique about him. Chris Eccleston is an absolute savage. With the with
Yeah.
the leather jacket, he's a savage.
You
Every
can say it. You find it
I
sexy.
agree.
with the Baker, he had the scarf. Baker
Classic.
had the scarf. Yeah, classic.
But
The
I have an observation to make about all these pointers that you're giving. If you look at a person's life progressively, they also have phases that they go through. And this is what each of those different qualities throughout each different doctor might represent, which is very like relatable to us in our personal experience to how we course through our lives too. I'm sure that you're not the same Yulin that you were 5 or 10 years ago.
oh,
There are things that have
absolutely.
changed in your likes and your dislikes. There's things that have changed of your perception of what's good or bad or what's better or worse, you know. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty about Doctor Who and how relatable he can become, is that we're just like him. Doctor Who is just a representation of us through our whole life. Only that asshole can live forever. We can't.
I was that's why I was rather okay with Peter Capaldi being kind of a curmudgeon and a lot older than the other ones because I mean, look, I'm 30 fine and I am a bit grouchy.
I like that number. You say 30 fine. I
Yeah, I'm
love it.
30
I
fine
love
and
I love it. That's what I want to be for now on. 30 fine.
I'm a grump. I sprayed my neighbor's kids with the hose because they kept bothering my service dog. Like I'm that asshole. Like
But yeah, I see where you're coming from. It's just very profound, the changes, but
Yeah.
they're for us is very like smooth and
Gradual.
transitional
But it's
gradually.
because we see every Doctor Who. We're talking about which Doctor Who is your favorite one. We're talking about which one, like it's not the same character all across all seasons. It is. It's just different face and a different face. You know, that's the tricky
and
thing.
along that same thought process, if you think about it, like Matt Smith is whimsical, Tennant is idealistic, and he fights for that. Peter Capaldi is just tired of everybody's shit.
You know who he reminds me of? The first Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
When I saw him, I was like, and again, I haven't seen all of the old Doctor Who's, the original. I seen a couple of episodes from the first one, and when I saw Capaldi for the first time, it's like, oh my god, he he acts almost like the first Doctor Who, very grumpy and grouchy, and
And his unique fashion thing was the velvet jacket. Or the velvet jacket. That was his thing.
one of the coolest things that I find about Capaldi was the guitar.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guitar and the sunglasses.
I mean, think about it. If you're gonna live forever, you're gonna eventually grow interest for an instrument or form of art or a thing like the scarf, for example. You mentioned like, hey, purple is still my favorite color. Funny thing that science fiction remnant colors is black and purple, which is my two favorite colors. That's just hilariously a coincidence. You know, we actually picked those colors because they represent space, the outer space, and stuff like that. You know, but at the end of the day, it's like even though it's still my favorite colors, like there was a time when I actually have purple Converse. Those are the only Chuck Taylor sneakers that I have right now, and they're purple. And and I actually have full sets of clothing that were purple, like pants, several T-shirts, a hat. you know,
And a science fiction remnant T-shirt.
Hey.
yeah, and a cushion.
I need to get one. Am I at a sign am I at the t-shirt tier, or do I need to go up a tier for to be a t-shirt tier?
Baby, I'm gonna get it for you. Don't worry,
We'll get it.
Yes.
it's on me.
We'll get it.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
But we're off the whole. We're on like all other episodes. So Doomsday. We still let's talk about how Rose Tyler is my favorite companion, and Doomsday
and
just destroyed my heart when they when they burned up a sun to say goodbye to her.
and Clara.
You think that they did burn up a son just to say goodbye to her? I think that he went there so he could say, because it's the time and place where the glitch on
No,
the
but
whole
Yeah,
galaxy is, where he
he
could
needed
meet
power.
with her.
He needed
yeah,
Yeah.
power.
yeah.
No, he
He
needed
needed.
power, but like she asked him, and I think that that's the, like, I'm not a pro at scientifical theory again, but I think that that's part of the mysteries and the beauty of science fiction. It touches a lot of real theories about science, and I think that that touched a lot in quantum physics. Is entanglement. He had to go to that time and place in the galaxy, in the whole universe, so he could find that gap that allowed him to communicate with her.
Let me try to explain
And she
that.
had to go to that place on Earth as well. Like if she wouldn't gone to that beach to find him, so she could talk for those 2 minutes with him, she would
Let,
Well,
let,
I
never have talked
just
to him.
remember the line that where he said, "And here I am burning up a sun just to say goodbye to you."
yeah. Now let me
Ah, but I mean, he's cocky, you know.
let me
It,
try to. I'm going to try to
let's not
explain.
take that away from him.
I'm going to try to explain that to you. Remember that Rose is in a different galaxy.
Yeah, in a different reality, an alternate one.
Exactly. So he's he's going somewhere in our galaxy towards a supernova, so he can actually power the TARDIS, so he can project himself in another galaxy. Now we don't know how far that galaxy is
No,
and the kind of power that you need to transmit an image from one galaxy to the other.
but
Now,
he also said, I mean, the time frame. He did not specify that it was specifically related to the time that the star had to blow up.
no, but he was next. But here's my point. Okay, what is the closest galaxy to ours? Andromeda.
Andromeda.
You don't
No,
have to
Alpha
say,
Centauri,
huh?
Alpha Centauri, Alpha Centauri.
Andromeda galaxy is
Well,
closest to the Milky Way galaxy. We don't have to mention the distance, but you can imagine that is
4
close,
light years.
huh?
Actually, from Andromeda, the closest star is Alpha Centauri, if I'm not mistaken, and it's 4 light years, I think, which is hell a lot of
Mm,
fucking time.
well, but without mentioning the time, the distance, we know that's big because even to travel within our own galaxy is a task, right?
1 light year is freaking 1,000 years, right? A millennial.
Well, I'm trying not to concentrate on the distances because I'm trying to kind of prove a point. Because then we'll get really technical. But the thing is this, you know,
4.3, 4.37 light years, actually, to be exact. It's the
so
closest star, and it's in Andromeda.
exactly. So you go. He needs power for the TARDIS to be able to transmit that. Now, the amount of power, and I can, and again, I'm trying to not to bring science into it because it's science fiction. But you can only imagine the amount of power necessary to transmit anything from one galaxy to the other it has to be in an impossible rate. So he's using the power of the sun, kind of like if you watch Star Wars, how they were eating that with a Star Killer base, they were eating a sun to destroy other planets. So the energy from a supernova is obviously bigger than a sun because it's going supernova. So he's obviously in a different galaxy and he's transmitting, but he did explain on the episode that all the cracks that were broken between the two universes. I mean, we're talking about galaxy, but they're talking about universes. they're almost filled in, and there's only one tiny gap that is closing down. So he's transmitting through that gap. There happens to be, where was it? Scotland?
Norway.
That's, no,
No,
Norway.
yeah,
Okay,
Norway. He's in Norway.
but he's
And
not in Norway.
and they were in dark links.
But he's not in Norway. He's
No,
somewhere in the galaxy, and he
but I
only
mean,
found that little gap to transmit with all the power that he can muster. Granted, at the end of the episode, we don't see the sun disappeared.
no.
Well, supernova. Let's not call it a sun. But he used a considerable amount of energy just to make that transmission, and n- it
Do
ended
you,
not
they,
because it ran
they
out
don't
of power,
they don't
but
explain it, but do you think that it has is related to the time and place? Because I mean, at the end of the day, who can tell you that the galaxy is not a whole system rotating throughout a bigger scale or scheme,
well, that's what
where
makes it.
maybe Earth was there maybe billions and billions of years back?
That's what makes it complicated. I mean,
Which brings
the whole
the quantum theory I'm having about it about entanglement,
and the
because
entanglement
time is
is
just subjective to a lifetime
the
span,
entanglement is the reason why he was able to transmit. Without that, he would not be able to transmit. There is
and
no
without she being in dark links, she also wouldn't have been able to see him or hear him or talk to him, because
so
you had to go to that place specifically on Earth
because that's what
so
the
you could
crack
see him.
was. That's what the crack
Yeah,
was that is closing. And the transmission ended not because the sun's power ended, but, and he did say it, because the crack closed.
was closing.
Yeah.
Julian, I hope I didn't lose you.
No, you didn't lose me. I'm just
Do you
paying
understand? You understand
attention.
what I'm?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead
I've
and
heard
give me your thoughts
Trust
on
me.
that.
I know no crap about science. I'm very dumb in there.
uh, like I love science, but when it comes to like who I'm I've kind of resigned myself to the idea that, traditional science concepts do not apply here. It's sci-fi. And I'm totally cool with that. You
It's a must for
mentioned
being a sci-fi lover.
Yep. You mentioned Clara before we talked about Rose. And you know, with Clara, I gotta say that really annoyed me a little bit. She was supposed to meet the Raven, and he was like, he created a whole thing where he pulled her out of time and space so she can roam the universe with Lady Mio, the Viking. The Viking that has no choice but to live forever.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, that's not a Doctor Who character trait. He would never do that.
Yeah.
That, but he did it for her. Anywho, yeah, Rose
That,
Tyler
that that
on the
that guy
beach.
that guy actually is the one that shows up with a time altering device that actually Robert told me there was a TV series for him which I never heard of or watched.
Which one?
Captain something.
Oh, Captain Jack Harness.
Yeah,
Yes, that was him, right?
yeah, face of bows,
The
face of
face of
bows.
Bo. And that this is something probably a topic for another episode. But I wish that they do
Yep.
a Torchwood, you know, revival. Um, but I always say I want Torchwood the way it was prior to this episode, but I want Captain Jack Harness to be the boss on this militaristic Torchwood. I don't know if you agree with that, but I always dreamed about seeing a show that way.
I I think Captain Jack would be a good leader for Torchwood. I did not get to see the series. I don't know, maybe because I'm like I didn't want to be considered a Doctor Who purist or anything, but I just Torchwood would never be as satisfying to me. So I didn't bother. But I
Yeah,
should. I should.
it was a really good show. And the funny thing is, and I think it was brought up to me by our very good friend Ian from Call Connections. He's a really good, a huge Doctor Who fan, and we did a couple of Doctor Who episodes with him on season one. But I watched Torchwood, and I remember loving that show, and never ever knew that it was a Doctor Who universe ever. And
Really?
I saw Doctor Who.
Honestly, I never watched it before, and I only knew about it when we mentioned it, when they mentioned it on that episode, which I think is one of our first, if not the first episode we have on Doctor Who.
So
It was with Ian.
I was like really tickled when I like, oh, because I wanted more Torchwood, and I couldn't get any more Torchwood, and so that was kind of like my way to. I know it's not the same thing, but it's in the same universe. So
Don't worry, man. I'll get some trees, chop them off, and just turn them on fire on your backyard. You get some torch wood.
I'm sorry. Shout out to Ian though. He posted something really funny on Twitter because I find myself being unable to sleep, so I'm frequently on Twitter at all hours of the day and night. And he posted, he's like, I feel like all my listeners are insomniacs from California. I was like, that's so
I should
weird.
move to California because I'm an insomniac, but I'm not there, even though I would love
I was
to.
like, that is an oddly specific thing to tweet out. So I was like, I posted a GIF. I was like, I feel attacked.
he's amazing, and
He is so
he's
funny.
yeah, and we look forward to have him on the episode on another episode in season two too. He was amazing. He's so funny.
Well, he's a Doctor Who fan. He's a fellow Whovian. I'm all the way down. I mean, hit me up, Ian. I'm so down to talk Doctor Who any day of the week, man.
Awesome. So what is your see? I'm dying. I have so many questions for Giancarlo's because this is technically one of the first times that we get to
That's your
talk
way to
about
challenge. That's your way to challenge my what would you
rebellion.
call it? My resistance to
Your
campiness, right?
your rebellion.
My
Y-
rebellion.
You resisted Doctor Who, but Doctor Who won.
Yes.
No,
Resistance is futile, man.
yeah, you seen Star Trek, right?
There's no
Yeah.
use in resisting. Yeah, I know.
No, but that aside, I'm just kind of curious to get your opinion because basically, I prior to you, I was the newbie when it comes to being a Whovian, a Doctor Who fan.
Sci-fi or
Um,
no?
and you're basically in this show, in this episode, you basically are the newest because you haven't really seen every episode. So I'm
No.
really curious to get your thoughts as to what you think now. I mean, it's a different season, and I'm sure you've seen the last one, which is a lot better when it comes to cinematography and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I've told you like I've learned to look beside or beyond CGIs to actually appreciate the real interesting things that are not expressed with visual effects. Which is like story and psychological facts and things that actually are very important to the whole structure of the character building and development of each story. You know
Yeah, cool.
So I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it's not like I hate Doctor Who. And,
No,
and
I
also
know that.
like even campiness, like not at all. I mean, you got me watching things that I never thought I'd watch, like Galactica, the classics, because I actually what was the show that I watched? I think it was
Caprica.
on Netflix. Caprica. I watched Caprica. I had no freaking idea how to do with Galactica, but I was like taken away by that show that didn't finish. I was like, what the heck? Why didn't it keep on going? And then you
Yeah,
told me this is Galactica, like the beginning, and I was like, Galactica? And then you showed me they had Galactica for 1954 and showed me like some ships hanging on dental strings, and I was like, what? And then he got me watching like two seasons. I was like, okay, this is not terrible. This actually is freaking good.
it's this story. I mean, Look at, for example, the movie that we talked about yesterday. It was Logan's Run.
Yeah,
Barely had any CGI.
yeah.
You
Jim
know,
Morrison on futuristic stuff, like hell yeah.
so the story, and that's the great thing about sci-fi is the fact that the possibilities and how it tickles your brain. How you're watching a good sci-fi when you're like, like we do. Like we pause a movie that takes an hour and takes 5 hours to watch it.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean
I
that's also
will
just a
watch a
spending.
movie. I'll watch a movie the whole way through, but then I will watch it the second time around is when I stop, I rewind. I'm like, what was that line said? That was an excellent line delivery, where I start to take notes and stuff. So for me, watch number two is always the longest.
You can ask Robert. Like, have you watched Juliana Ready Player One?
Um, that is no, that's not Free Guy. That's the one with Adam Sandler in it.
No, 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 no.
Oh
This
no no
one,
wait, which one is it?
it's like
Ready
a
Player
virtual.
One.
Ready Player One is a book based movie, and actually it's like people that live on a like in a dystopian future where most people are going into virtual reality, and
Oh,
basically, you remember it?
yeah, I definitely. Yep. I watched this with
So
my
so
husband.
yeah, I mean it's an
Yeah, I
amazing
remember
movie.
this.
Robert and I, the very first time that we watched this movie, I'm not kidding you. I kid you
That
not. We
movie,
watched the movie. Huh?
that movie was so good. I like that movie.
That
I
movie's
lo-
amazing.
and then he's like, oh, in the end when he was like supposed to get the prize, and he's like, oh yeah, live your life. That yeah, I remembered it now. I was confused for a second.
That movie's great. And I mean, I kid you not. First time that Robert and I watched it together, the movie's not 2 hours long. We took over almost 7 hours and a half to
Yeah.
finish the movie because we will pause and like, oh, look at this, look at that, and we just start theorizing and going bunkers about shit and little
Cause there's a
components in the scene, and we would just deranged completely from the whole storyline, like just talking about those things on those time and the meaning that they have in the movie and all the nostalgia it brings on,
I
and
don't
that's
even
how
know if we
Robert and I
caught
watch
that
sometimes
movies.
on.
if you miss it, if you blink, you miss it. You
Yes.
have to
Yes.
Yeah.
rewind.
And I don't even know if we caught everything on our episode on season one for that movie. Because
Oh,
it was just so
I don't
much.
think so. I don't think so. And I mean, I'm dying for us to actually do the books 1 and 2. Honestly, he has a lot more stuff that I love. I mean, it will be great if we can get a hold of actually the writer to join us in. But if not, like that movie, like that was one of the things that you introduced me to that is like freaking passionate about. I am.
It
Definitely. You
was
know
really good.
what? The you guys have a sci-fi book club. I fell off a little because I got married and then I caught COVID, or I had Thanksgiving dinner and
Which
then
one? Which
caught
one was
COVID.
worse?
What, Thanksgiving dinner or COVID?
Or married?
Um,
Just kidding.
you know what? My marriage, it's like the highlight. It's the highlight of my day. When my
I'm
husband
glad to hear
comes
that.
home,
Congratulations. Yeah.
thank you.
Honestly, I'm sincerely glad to hear that. Even by self experience, like many people actually, COVID and being just with your partner was like the thing that give the wake, the call of the wake for them. But honestly, the way I learn about thinking about it is like this will have been the prime time. Like you are always with the person you always want to be, and I
You
mean, it
know
gives
what
you
we
more time
did?
to have quality time. It's amazing.
We cuddled up and binge watched stuff. Well, I'm pretty sure we watched Ready Player One when we had COVID. We watched Ready Player One, Free Guy. We binge watched Revenge. We caught up on all our shows and we're like, what should we watch next? Because he's always working and I'm
Yes.
always home. So my kids were quarantined to their room. I got up, fed them or whatever. They went to the bathroom. We had to disinfect, but we caught COVID from taking care of them. And then, we just kind of quarantined on the couch while everybody was in their room, and we just binge watching. I knit stuff. It was great. I'm When my husband goes to
Think
work, I
about it.
just him.
What do you do when no, like, forget about COVID? What is that you long for when you're stuck in the office dealing with people that usually, even though I told most of my coworkers throughout my whole career, we got to get along well. We spend more time together with our families. People don't get along well. So what is that you long more for is being with that special someone that you like being with and doing stuff that you like and enjoy together. You
Exactly.
know.
And it's a
So
plus when you both like the
yes,
same things. That
yes,
is a
yes.
Yeah.
plus.
My husband told me that when we first got together, he was alone for a long time. Like, he really took some time to work on himself. I took some time to work on myself. He said he thought it would be take some getting used to have another person in his life, and he thought he would miss me time, but he was surprised that a lot of the things he likes to do, I like to do too. Like, I love basketball, watching TV, knitting. I like being outside, camping. I like getting my hands dirty. He's not really a fan of like getting in there in the garden, but he tried it, and he liked it. So, we try other things. I'll try his thing, he tries my thing, and then there's things that we like together. So,
I mean, you guys are doing everything I believe about what life should be about. It's not about just let me convince you. It's about just consider it. Just
yeah.
consider it. Give it genuine interest. If it didn't work out good, if it worked out good, but the fact that that can be mutually delivered, where it's gonna change you both to a whole different person, so you are evolving together, and
Yeah.
that's something beautiful and invaluable in life. I think that's what all life is all about. It's about just being open to the possibility.
Joy.
So I'm
Spend
really happy to hear
time.
that. Really.
Oh, thank you. I always say spend time on the things that bring you joy.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yes. Now, to bring it back, Giancarlo, who's your favorite hero? The Daleks?
Hero? I mean, honestly,
Your favorite
honestly,
hero, was it the Daleks or the Cybermen?
I'm sorry. Like, to me, the Cybermen behave more under an overly intelligent beings by trying to find common points. I think that the Daleks are so full of shit and full of themselves that they overemphasize about their superiority when they just look like super glorified toilet plungers.
Well, I mean, the Daleks got beat by the Time Lords anyway.
Yeah,
Yes.
They got
and I
beat by the
mean,
Time Lords over and over again. Not to mention, Capaldi went back and he met Davros, and he taught him mercy.
mhm.
By teaching the Daleks mercy, it changed them. It changed them right down to like their DNA. So they weren't as exterminate. Clara was stuck in one and she was like, "Stop, help." And she learned because he spared Davros, Clara was able to say mercy, and he was able to save her.
Yeah. And Cybermen, they they're trying to be, which I find that very poignant, is the fact that they are trying to be better humans by removing every flaw or everything they consider to be a flaw in a human, and thus turning themselves in monsters.
But
Um,
yet, the whole spine and base structure of their being, it's originated on a human being.
yeah, so they're well, that's what I'm saying. They want to be Like they feel okay. I want to be the best human, but fear is not good, so we're gonna remove that. Love is not good, so we're gonna remove that. And remove. Basically,
And
the
then you
same
go
thing.
with logic, and I mean, it's just the whole iRobot theory all over again. Is that I mean, this is explained by Sonny on iRobot, even though I don't want to diverge from the main topic, but he actually relates so much. Is that logic alone is not always the right answer because it actually can be inhumane and and very absent of compassion and very tyrant, you know.
Yeah,
So it always has to be diverse and a good combination that actually brings the key word to the whole thing: balance.
Yes.
I
Yes.
agree. And the Daleks are kind of like in the same way, but I think their flaw is their pride.
And pride. That's what I mentioned. Like they actually overly uh, emphasize on their superiority to everything they found across. Like if you look at observingly to the way they behave and they talk to everything else, they treat it like it's not more valuable than them. They treat it like it's inferior. They treat it like they are best than anything. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like how they talk to the Cyberman when the Cybermen tell her like, hey, we have a common interest and we have a common origin. We should join forces. They actually talk to the Cybermen like they're inferior. They talk to humans like they are disposable, inferior pieces of crap too, and like they are the best of the best of the best.
See,
And
maybe
I know
their
time
favorite
they
part
actually
too.
made it until like, oh shit, they are just proud until the end.
Maybe that's their fatal flaw too. Because like, if I don't
Yeah.
like this, if I don't like this a hole, and you don't like this a hole, let's get together and beat down this a hole. We can deal with each other later.
yeah, yeah,
The enemy of my enemy is my friend or my
Yep,
ally.
yep, yep,
Like
yep.
that's Sun Tzu, the art of war.
yeah, yeah.
Sun Tzu is brilliant, honestly, brilliant military tactician.
Military, and it actually helps you to navigate through many life difficulties if you look at it in a more broad sense of utility.
Yeah.
You, Sun Tzu, they have the art of war as applied to business management as well. And it's true because look, you're more likely to get happy employees to follow you. It's what he's saying. You've got to have the will of the people on your side. So if you have employees that follow you and respect you, then you are more likely to accomplish more.
Yeah, I mean that's the empirical difference between being a leader and a boss. You know, the leader understands he's just one more gear in the bigger scheme of things, the giant machine. The boss thinks he's the one piloting the machine, which is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of psychological insight of how group dynamics can work to a very refined way when properly employed on good environments.
And I want to point out and to bring back to the episode that we're talking about. I want to point basically just want to ask what is your guys' thought on the reunion at the end? And I know Giancarlo's might not be too familiar with the reunion. Um, and I want to call it reunion is technically not a reunion. Rose's parents.
I know what you mean,
Um,
but I want to hear Jolene first.
Well, I found it interesting because Rose's dad, her real dad, the one she came from in her world, is dead. And I find it interesting that they play with the idea that this is not her real dad, but she's willing to love him. And he falls in love with Rose's Jackie, and suddenly they become this family that she wants. And I've always watched that and asked myself, is this real? Like, is this something? Does she really truly feel okay about this? Because he is not. He is not the dad she lost. They don't
Yeah.
share the same memories. Nothing. That's not her real dad. But it's just like when she and the doctor reunite with the Dr. Donna episode, and she gets this human doctor version of David Tennant. He's human, and it's like, so Rose Tyler ends up with this fake family, fake dad, and fake doctor.
Yeah, that yeah, I see that. What is your thought coming to this, Giancarlo, as a new uh, inductee into the Doctor Who world?
Well, the way I see it is that it shows the broad array of possibilities that there are to what acceptance can bring us. If she would have been fixated, this is not my dad, the whole thing would have been dysfunctional, right away. Same thing with her mother. If their mother would have understand that it was not him, but when he was telling her about the reality and he decided to bring her up, she only told him like, I didn't care about this, I didn't care about that, you know. So he brought the real way, the real reason why people actually choose to be together, and instead of looking for the difference, they look for the common ground, the things that actually do matter, which is something that actually is very counterproductive about how we humans work by default for being self-centered beings. Is that usually we try to look for the things, the differences, instead of looking for the common things. I mean, if the world will look at things by what we have in common instead of what we have in differences, I mean, there would not be any struggle worldwide. Probably aliens will be here sitting with us instead of being like, well, we don't want to get involved in that shit. They're all killing themselves all the time. They're gonna be a freaking mess.
Aliens probably look at us like, oh man, did you stop off at planet Earth? Man, look,
We,
just lock your doors and keep on driving. Do not stop there.
the way I see it, and
These
I took
guys are
this
heathens.
idea, of we are the weirdest terrarium that aliens have on their room. So they look at us and they're like, "Shit, no, this species is just fucked up. We don't. We're just gonna watch it through the glass and not get in there."
So aliens watch us the way like we watch snakes devour mice, or
Yeah,
or people watch like a tarantula eat a centipede or something. They
yeah,
must look at this
yeah.
and be like, bro, watch this. Watch this. They're about to kill their neighbor. No, no, I've been
hmm
watching this. I've been watching them all day. Watch. It's gonna happen.
it's like people they say like, "Oh, gossip is bad," but every time that there's a gossip, they're like, "Okay, tell me." you know it's like that nuisance that like we are attracted to trouble anyways, like, but at the end of the day, that's a reality. Like we like to put ourselves, we look at apex predators, and we like to look ourselves like we're an apex predator because of our consciousness, even though we're just one more animal on the earth that has a different capability. And at the end of the day, it works for us in a way, but actually puts us on a disadvantage when we look at things from a more natural standpoint. If we throw a man in the nature and he doesn't know about being more in communion with nature, this guy is not gonna survive a week, probably. You know,
What?
so the same way, it's just like it's like a catch 22. We are conscious, we think we're superior, but we're really not. You know.
Well, we think our higher level thinking makes us better. Like no other animal loves or cares for the young or has compassion. But if you look at like gorillas and dolphins, and they have compassion. They care for the young. They've adopted young from other species. And I mean, gorillas have sex, or dolphins have sex for fun. They
Yeah.
it
And
they have
they have paternal and maternal instincts, though,
yeah,
even though they don't have love, you know, for offspring.
exactly.
You can see even animals that behave maternally or paternally with a different offspring of a different species. Like I've seen actually a leopard care for a monkey after it killed its mother and not eat it or just take care of it like it's food
Yeah,
and so and so.
I
Yeah,
saw
I
that
seen that.
same video. I saw that same video. It tripped me out. I was sad that the baby died from exposure, but she tried.
Exactly. I mean, A for effort. But my
Tried.
point is, and I mean, this episode, like, I'm not gonna take it away from you guys being more a lot fan that what I would consider myself being a fan, but actually I can still appreciate the beauty of how the whole show is made. It's full of sentimentalism because it actually marks a separation of one of. Here's the beautiful thing: Doctor Who is the same guy all throughout the different seasons, even though it's different characteristics and quirks, but each companion is the unique one character that is gonna be completely different every time that it changes. And Rose is that one. You know,
Yeah.
Rose is Rose, and every other companion that comes along is that character that doesn't matter what, it's gonna have a different character and it's not gonna repeat itself. So it's gonna make it treasurable because it's gonna not be everlasting anyways. It's not gonna be the Doctor next season. It's gonna be somebody else with some other name, with some other different good qualities, but still is different. It's not the same person. Doctor is gonna be the same person with a different face, but the companions are not.
Yeah, and also, what do you think about the fact that going back to because this is something that I just have to ask, going back to the reunion where you know how we have different universes and they're coming from
Mhm.
one universe. I always found that to be like hitting the jackpot, hitting the lottery, because we have so many possible combinations, so many possible scenarios that every person, like for example, the Robert in another universe could be a criminal, in another
Yeah.
universe could be a doctor, in another universe could be a president. Um,
Mhm.
there's so many possible combinations based on choices that we take in our life. And when I saw this reunion, I find it to be fascinating. It's kind of like hitting the lottery. Although they're still different, the chance that they found another universe where that person was that way, where the dad, and the mom were close, because he could have found one that he was a mobster and
Yeah.
he would shoot her in the head.
I mean, think about it. The mere fact that he was completely successful on this alternate universe, but not on the current one, and that probably was also an affecting factor. So he didn't make it. You know. So
Yeah,
at
he
the end of
said
the day,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
I remember that she asking about things, and then he said like, "Oh, I was successful. Oh yeah, I'm very rich. No, no, very rich." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care about those things. I don't care about those things." So at the end of the day, I think that even in alternate universe, may that be the reality. The course of history throughout our life path is going to determine some decisions that, even though our nature is going to be the same in each alternate universe, our decisions are never going to be the same, and those decisions are going to branch out to make our reality completely different to which each reality is on a
and
parallel universe.
and I
So
can
we can still be
compare.
the same person. Like I could be a total asshole, a cold murderess, and still be the most loving guy that is so good to have on my good side. You know?
Yeah, I can almost compare it to that game that we did the episode on. It was becoming human. Um, the choices that you know, person A and person B might be the same at the start, right? But your choices take you to a different path, and eventually, the choices that person A gets are completely different than the choices that the person B gets. So even
Yeah.
if they try to be the same, it's like you can't find those choices. It's like a multiple choice test. You
Don't go
know, you
further. Don't go further. Like you were trying to break your head about, like at the beginning of that game, for example, not killing the father, even though he was an abusing, drunkard asshole that would beat his daughter and beat the robot. For you, that was the better pathway. For me, it's like, no, I will kill that. I will kill that motherfucker every single time I can. Like he doesn't deserve to die. He will abuse a kid and beat that Robert, which is also kind of a human too, and he's compassionate about his own kid. So like that's the difference, and that's I think that the yeast of what makes you you doesn't matter what reality you're in. There's certain elements of a person that they're everlasting. They will not change. Doesn't matter the time point or reality. It only changes your life pathway because of the consequences that are gonna be differently uh, generated depending on each decision that will be brought really because of causality, cause
I
and effect.
feel like the idea of parallel dimensions or alternate universes or the multiverse really is a creative exploration of the idea of nature versus nurture.
Mm,
Because
It's expansion of the what ifs.
yeah,
yeah.
because if you like, John Locke came up with tabula rasa, saying that we're all a blank slate, and our environment influences us to be one way or another. Whereas other philosophers say how we are is written in our DNA. So I feel like the idea of the multiverse is a really creative discussion of nature versus nurture. It's a continuation of this philosophical debate for which there is no correct answer.
Yeah.
So
I have told
That's the
Giancarlo.
funny thing is that we look at things like right or wrong, and sometimes there's no right or wrong. There's just different answers.
it's just, and a lot of our movies and sci-fis and stuff is is really a philosophical debate if you think about it, like the Matrix. That's the allegory of the cave. If you
Mhm.
think about it, three cavemen can only see what the shadow puppets are showing us. People are born into the Matrix, they only know what the Matrix shows us. And then one day, one of them ventures out to see the world outside the cave, and that would be, Neo or Morpheus, the one. And then he comes back and tries to teach the other cavemen that there's a world outside the cave with the shadow puppets. Some people stay, some people go. Dude eating the steak in the Matrix, like, I know this isn't real, but it tastes damn good. He would be a caveman that doesn't want to leave the cave.
Yeah.
The Morpheus and Trinity, the ones that leave, they're the ones that that got pulled out the cave. Neo would be the philosopher king.
Yeah.
A lot of these movies are like extensions of philosophical concepts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I always told Giancarlos, what I always believe is that at least I am the result of my experiences and my surroundings. So I believe I will not be the person that I am now with my choices if it wasn't because of my experiences and what I was surrounded with,
It's
as
true.
in my path and.
yeah,
It's
totally
true.
agree with that.
I just had this discussion on Facebook. They said, would you get $10 million or the ability to go back in time and fix all your mistakes? I said, listen, I'll take that $10 million. I will, build a business, invest, create generational wealth, and I will stay with my wisdom, because if I go back and fix my mistakes, I would come out to be a complete asshole.
And you won't have
Mistake,
those that wisdom you have today.
yeah,
Yeah,
mistakes
because
humble you.
mistakes makes you smarter.
I read
Yeah.
That's
something
all.
that actually struck me that actually relates a lot to what you're saying now, and is that he says that winners are just losers that never gave up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know, people make mistakes, and that's just, you just learn 9, 10 different ways to not do something. The next time you try it, it might be the way. Life is trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, and we learn through that. We become
Mhm.
Giancarlo's. We lost your sound. So
1 2 1 2 1 2.
there you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
there am
yeah,
I.
I hear
There am I.
you. Hear
So
you.
I've learned like one thing about like a very very big lesson that I've taken about life is that at the end of the day, like there are certain things that we think they shouldn't happen, or we don't deserve it, or somebody else don't deserve it. But we are by nature self-centered beings. You know, we create meaning from experience. That being said, if we don't undergo through that, or sometimes we don't understand somebody else's pain until we go through the same thing, because unfortunately that's how we create meaning of what the reality is. So the experience is empirical for it to actually make a meaning in our life, so what actually is. And I mean, it's a sad thing. Sometimes we do something wrong to somebody, and until that wrong is done to us, we don't really see the bad with it, because at the end of the day, we lack that scrutiny of looking inwards, looking at the ugly side of us. We don't like to. When you're saying a story, most of the time, you're not gonna say the bad things that you did on the story. You're gonna try to portray yourself as victim or a good guy, even though you might actually have been the asshole all along. And it's just that ego, that try to preserve the benevolence in our character. And although we try to think, and that's actually the poisoning thing about the super ego, which is not ego, but is what we think we should be, even though that it's not what we are. And basically is us bullshitting ourselves about believing that we are what we actually are not, instead of looking inwards and seeing the ugly in us, accepting it, and try to actually deal with it. It's like people don't like to deal with problems. They like to brush it under the carpet and forget about it, and it's just like putting skeletons in the closet. It doesn't fix your problems. That's just making interest on it like a bank, but it's not gonna be a nice interest. It's gonna be actually, it just gets uglier by the time that you don't deal with it. So some people actually don't like when you tell them like, "Hey, let's just forget about it." No, let's not forget about it. Let's discuss it. Let's resolve it, and then we put it back on the past, because then it's resolved. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like how many skeletons do fit in the closet before it
Oh man, I mean,
burst?
I got a graveyard, but I mean, it looks like freaking Burning Man on the desert now. It's just a giant fireball, and I'm just enjoying it, man. Screw it. Whoever didn't
It,
like it, man, go to another festival. Go to Ultra.
listen, it is what it is, you know. We are who we are, and when people tell you who we are, like when I tell you who I am, you've got to accept that or keep moving.
It's like I tell people, I tell them, before you try to get to know me, know yourself.
Yeah.
And most
Otherwise,
people don't. But most people don't. They don't know themselves. Like Charles Bukowski says, he says like, "Hey, I sat down and had a drink with my demons. They didn't turn out to be that bad at all. They actually were the ones that gave me the strength to keep on fighting on when I didn't have it." So even things that we actually portray as antagonists, sometimes they also have their good things. The bad character qualities, they also can be good for us to keep on fighting on for our preservation and to become stronger and be better people too. Everything has is a duality in everything in life, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I always joke around and say, I haven't let my demons out to play in a while. But the fact is, it's because my fuse is getting longer. My fuse is getting longer. I have a lot more patience than what I used to have. But I tell you, well, once it's over, it's over. You like,
Eh,
I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna curse at you. It's gonna be like a quiet resignation to the fact that I'm about to give you these hands.
mhm. And that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, it doesn't change the nature. It's just like a pressure pot, if or like a crock pot. If you don't open it and decompress it, it's gonna blow up anyways, because it's just packing up, and it has to actually transmute and expand somewhere else. Now it's gonna blow up. And we work the same way. It's the same way personally and psychologically. I mean, if we do that, it's also an act of transgression, because instead of being aggressive towards somebody else. Just like they say, how can you love somebody if you don't love yourself? The same way, if you hate yourself, that's hating yourself. That's committing a crime towards yourself. And at the end of the day, that's gonna go out, and it's just gonna be more aggressive and more violent. You know, energy
Yeah.
doesn't disappear; it just transfers somewhere else. So
Yeah,
that's how it goes scientifically. If I would have put it some way.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on this episode before we move on to the last segment?
No, I was really bummed that he didn't get to tell Rose Tyler he loved her. Also,
Yes.
it was weird for me to see the kissing and the romance between the doctor and the companion because traditionally in classic Who that's not how it happens. There's
Yeah.
no romance between the doctor and his companions usually.
I feel the same way because it just felt weird. But I think what really felt the most is that the doctor. I mean, because I would understand how the companion would feel that way and will actually go as far as Rose to tell the doctor. But what surprised me the most was the doctor actually was going to say it back.
It's a
And
safekeeping. It's a safekeeping mentality. I think that the doctor steals way superior being that understands us better than we would ever understand ourselves. It's just like thinking the concept of God and us. God is in a higher dimensions. So the same thing happens with the doctor. He's a higher dimensional being. He understands us better than we. He understands what's the greater good. He's able to put aside his self interest for the better. He knows that she has a companion. So which is her boyfriend. So he understands there's no good coming from him feeding this that is bound to end in seconds. By telling her he loves her back, he's just gonna cause more pain by telling her this because there's no remedy for him to actually change the reality of what's bound to happen anyways.
Yeah, I
So
don't think her and Mickey ended up together because when he got the next companion hit, Mickey and Martha ended up together.
mhm,
So her and
yeah,
Mickey didn't end up together.
and I think you could see it on this episode how Mickey was just, he I don't know if it's just me, but I
he's
saw
still there.
the
So like
face.
it could have been something that changed over time too,
I,
and it was not the reality at that specific time and point.
I saw the face of a
Mm.
man that gave up.
Yeah.
Because he's always jealous of the doctor. Always jealous of the doctor. And that face that I saw at the end of this episode was the face of a man who gave up.
You see, these are the acting characteristics that it gives me difficulty to spot with campiness. Campiness actually kind of like brushes all over all these little nitpick, actually imperative, really important things that would define the progression of a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that that's the reason that he did it. Is he tried to think of the bigger picture, So he
Well,
did not tell her he loved her back when she told her that she loved him right before leaving because he knew that that would have caused more pain than nothing. So he rather left it to a doubt that actually say it back, and then it's like it's just gonna be a wound that's never gonna close, really. If you love somebody so deeply and that person tells you they love you back and then you never see them again, it's like I'm just depriving you for the opportunity to get to love somebody in the future.
and it makes me wonder something you mentioned. He is a higher dimensional being, which is obvious
Yeah,
from the show. Higher dimensional beings see time and space as one thing.
yeah,
So that would explain how the Time Lords could actually they see time in a circular motion instead of us as a linear motion. So he knows or he experiences his entire life from birth to
to
death
death. Yeah,
in one instance. So it makes you wonder. He knew this was going to happen. Um, he, the discussion that we had about higher dimensional beings traveling through time versus us using a time machine is the fact that we are blind. while the higher dimensional beings can see, and they can plan and direct themselves on the best possible choice because they can see all possible scenarios. Uh, That always make me wonder on this, especially on this episode, when the whole thing and everything that happened, and how in my mind I knew that he knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because he actually defies the theory that future is not written in stone.
Mhm.
So how can you know the beginning to the end of your life if that whole premise is affected by so many factors that are outside of your own life, which
But
is
only
every single being that comes into contact with you in your reality.
But only a higher dimensional being has the power to do that because they can see all choices throughout the entire life. We can't really comprehend that concept. And and
Yeah,
and and that's why we're blind, and that's why we have so many time travel movies where someone goes into and then they fix something, and when they come back, everything is destroyed
yeah,
because they're
it's true.
blind. They don't know what this change will affect in the future. Only a higher dimensional being can do that.
Hmm.
Did I wonder if what do you think about that? About my thought that the doctor knew.
I don't I wanna say they always say time is more timey wimey,
Yes.
wobbly. That's something he says all the time. It's more of a timey wimey, whatever. But I don't think he knew. I do
Okay.
not think he knew that was the outcome because of the way they describe time. And
There is one thing I
yes,
want to point
if
out to what you're saying is if he knew, he would not try to change it and save the world so many times.
Well, that
yeah,
still doesn't
and
answer my question because he can
because
make the best possible scenario, the best possible changes to the best possible scenario, to make
the
sure that the Earth doesn't blow up.
and if he knew how everything was gonna pan out, then like what's the point? He would have known who River Song was. Remember, he bumped into River Song at the library. He had no idea who she was. And throughout the whole series, they have their no spoilers. And then,
Yeah.
when she met up with Matt Smith during the astronaut episode,
Yes. You.
they would compare, okay, so at what point are you right now? And it was like i- she was married to she's the doctor's wife, but every time she see him, he get younger and younger. So if he knew the whole time, then he would have known what happened to the pawns. He would have known what happened to Danny Pink. He would have known um he would have known. He would have known Rose would have end up in that weird dimension sort of thing. He would have known Rose came back. He would have seen Dr. Donna coming and be like, "Hey, don't touch that." You know, it'd have been as simple as, like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. You got a point there.
Yeah.
Um.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, those are the kind of thought experiments that I do every time, and I'm sure Giancarlo does that too when we watch anything.
Oh, I do it too. I do
The
it
fault
too.
of we can all share that that's the fault of being an overthinker.
Can't help it. Can't help it.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to the last segment.
Science and sci-fi.
And this segment usually is brought to us by Max. Unfortunately, he couldn't be in today for this episode, but he sent me his notes. Basically, he wanted to concentrate on the TARDIS, the time and relative dimension in space. So he mentions that how most time machines only work in time, and that's how when you watch a time travel movie, we always have that question because yeah, you can travel back in time, But the issue with those movies, if you really, really stop and think, is the fact that the Earth rotates and Earth moves across space. So where we were, and especially now, everything goes at a incredible speed in space. We don't really feel it, but even Earth moves and rotates at an incredible speed. So if we go back in time to tomorrow, we probably end up in space
Yeah.
because the Earth is already not in the same location as it
Not
was
only the
before.
Earth, even our galaxy probably is moving across a giant or bigger system, which is our galaxy. No, our solar system is moving across the galaxy's rotational systems.
Exactly.
So I mean, it just scales up and it scales up beyond our point of comprehension. Really, if you think about it.
So we have to give, big nods to the writers and the creators of this show because we know that the TARDIS handles that. And if I think about this, could be one of the oldest shows that deals with time travel in the way that they do, where it actually handles. I mean, the time machine itself, as TARDIS is time and relative dimension in space. So it accounts for what we're talking about, time and space being one single thing.
What are you leaving to H.G. Wells?
Mm.
Just kidding.
Well, let's we can talk about that. He he didn't have a way to manage that on his time machine. He
That's
can
true.
only use
It was
time.
bound to Earth in the same place, just
Exactly.
just
So
touching time as a dimension.
there's fault in that because if that really happened, he would have ended up in the middle of space when he traveled back in time, or going in the future.
How thought you can go back and forth in the time then?
Torchwood.
Yes, they do.
Well, that's a very good point. By the way, my wife has seen Torchwood, so
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
she's mentioning how they go back in, and which is a very good point because they don't have a TARDIS.
The
Um,
TARDIS go to the wormhole through the time, and how thought you do does that?
I think that the answer to that is at the end of the day, Torchwood is also immortal.
yeah, he is
So
immortal.
so he has that quality that Doctor Who has. Time is time because we don't live forever. If I will live forever, time is not time. Time is just another rotation of Earth around the system, and that's it. It's not a year. It's not a day. You know, it's like what is time accounted for if you have an infinite amount of days? Like, what's a day for a rock? It's nothing because a rock is supposed to last forever under the degradation or ravage of time with the ecosystem that it's on it. You know,
Yeah.
Mm. But he put
Is
his
Billy
people.
Piper in Torchwood?
I'm sorry.
Is Billy Piper in Torchwood?
No.
No.
Mm. It's a really good show. I really, really enjoyed it. I was, like I said, I was surprised that it was part of the Doctor Who. So in essence, I was watching the whole Doctor Who universe without knowing the Doctor Who universe.
I have to watch it. Like I'm now I've made I'm definitely going to see if I can watch it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, and come back to us and let me know what you think, especially after
Okay.
you finish season one. Season one is one of my favorites.
In season one, do they address what happened at all, or is it just its own separate thing?
It is its own separate thing, but everything is dependent on the Doctor Who universe.
but they show also the utility of Torchwood's immortality in season one, if I'm not mistaken, because there's an episode where they have an arc with a selected society from different races, and they show how he's the only one that could not have died from a weapon that they were using in on board that was nuclear that would actually kill any form of life, but it was not able to kill him.
Yeah. And we see Torchwood in Doctor Who. There's Torchwood goes through different variations. The Torchwood that we know from the show, me and Rocio, is the Torchwood that is like similar to NSA. It's a secret organization, but not like NSA because you no longer have that Torchwood that we see in this episode. You have a Torchwood that is underground that no one knows, and if you see them, they erase your memory, kind of like Men in Black, except a lot less people on the ground, and they do missions. They try to defend the Earth. Um, and for Julene, just so you know, a point of reference, if you remember when the Doctor left behind um, a Captain Jack Harkness,
Yeah.
I that's when he started Torchwood, the underground. And then there was another episode when he was able to catch up with him and he was running towards the TARDIS and he grabbed the TARDIS and then ended up with the Doctor in space. That we get to we get to see that in Torchwood when he say goodbye to all the people because he was going to see the Doctor. So everything is linked,
That's
to do
cool.
the two episodes. Is we the bad thing is we don't get to see the Doctor in Torchwood, which is it would have been nice, but
Yeah. Question
okay,
is, which doctor would we have seen though?
yeah, yeah, because I mean, he lives forever too, so
Is it? I could feel like is Chibble is going to be writing Doctor Who from now on. Or there's like a writer change again, I believe, from Whitaker to now to like when the next Doctor is going to be a different writer or a previous writer or something. I swear I read something like the writer is changing.
uh, and the last thing on my notes from Max here, he says, "Can we make a real sonic screwdriver?" And apparently, a team of scientists in Dundee University have designed and built their own sonic screwdriver. As Andrew Anderson reports, it is hoped that it will be help in complex ultrasound surgery. So that is kind of cool, if you ask me.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it is. It is.
So that is
Probably, it
all
probably costs millions of dollars. Otherwise, I'll be like, look, I need a sonic screwdriver in my life.
awesome.
Sorry, you
Um,
hear my dog barking in the background because those kids are bothering him again. I'm just
oh, time to get the hose.
I swear I will. I swear I will. Like the mom will show up on my door ready to fight me, but I'm just like, listen, if you don't come get these kids.
Awesome. Okay, so that is the end of our segment. Any closing thoughts before we finish this episode?
Watch Doctor Who.
Who?
Yes. Who? Who? Who?
Exactly. Who? The doctor.
The
Yes.
Doctor.
Ask me. I'm the doctor.
Doctor Who.
Who? I'm a Whovian. Trust me, I'm a Whovian.
Hovian.
Awesome. Giancarlos, any final thoughts?
Hey, I just want to thank Jolene to being in our show, and well, it's already a fact. We're gonna have to be back with other episode and have you in.
Yeah, thank you so much for all of your support from season one all the way here, and I appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you too. I'm sorry. Like the house is just coming to life again. That was my dad screaming for my son to get to church, get
That's
ready
okay.
for church. I mean, it's 5 o'clock. They got 30 minutes to get there. And let's just be honest, my son will just roll out of bed and throw on whatever. But yeah, I'm really excited that I was able to come on your show and talk about who.
Yeah, and you are la patrona. We appreciate you, patrona.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I thank you for one more thing to help me get Giancarlo's a little bit more into this Doctor Who
The
universe.
Hobian universe.
I know it's going to take me time, but he's warming
Hey,
up.
look, come on. Come on. Just come to who what is it? I'm like the Whovianist who in Whoville or whatever. I'm the whoist Whovian in Whoville.
There you
Uh,
go.
it's like me. I don't know how much you like Batman, but it's like me trying to get Robert into Batman.
Love Batman. I've seen
He
all the
doesn't.
Batmans.
He doesn't.
Every last one of
There
them.
you go. There you go. There
Like
you go. There you have
the
a
Adam
kicker. He doesn't like Batman. He doesn't like dark.
I was just talking about how I saw all the Adam West Batman episodes,
Oh,
the
I love
cartoon
Adam West.
episodes, Batman Beyond, Mask of the Phantasm, all the Batman movies. I should read the comic books.
Yeah.
I I love me some Batman. Even that one where Harley Quinn has sex with Nightwing. The one and they have like the fart jokes and stuff in the Batmobile.
Yep.
Uh,
I've seen them all, man.
But Robert, like, he's not a Batman guy. And I'm like, what do you mean, man? But
it's
he's
too dark.
all on Superman. So I
It,
mean,
it's too dark.
maybe we can do an exchange. I'll do all the Doctor Who's, which is a lot bigger undertaking than a couple of Batman movies. But
Yeah, I saw the Michael Keaton movies, and those are my
oh,
favorite.
Michael Keaton is badass. I think
Yeah,
that
Michael
I,
Keaton is the
I think
best
that
Batman.
he's first before Christian Bale, even though Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors. I think that Michael Keaton is the best Batman so far.
They
Yeah,
need to
Michael
bring him back.
Keaton definitely the best Batman. Oh,
Also, and we
he does he has a cameo in Morbius.
oh, nice.
Yeah, Morbius. He's there and he plays I think like a cleanup guy or whatever or a scientist, and he's like, "Hey, man, me and you should talk." Because Doctor Morbius is kind of like a bat or vampire or whatever, but he's like, "Me and you should talk." And I
Yeah,
thought it was cool because it's like a total insider between Batman fans, and the fact that Morbius became Morbius in a bat cave just the same way Batman did. I don't know. I thought it was cool.
yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming back, and I hope that you can come back again. I hope we did not scare you, and you can come back. We love to have you in the show. Thank you so much.
Are you
Do
kidding
it.
me? This is home base. I'm loving it.
Awesome.
Please, any
Awesome.
place that I could talk
Para
for
pa pa
2
pa.
hours, I'm loving it. Any place I can that any show that allows me to talk about Doctor Who for 2 hours and I can just geek out without feeling like a weirdo. I'm here for it. I
Awesome.
talked about some deep cuts on some Doctor Who deep cuts too. So, you guys were all the way down. So
Awesome. We got to make another one, another Doctor Who episode.
definitely, definitely.
All
Awesome.
right. All right, Robert. All right.
We can do like I don't know, Madame du Pompadour was a good one. That was a fun one.
I love that one.
The Christmas episode was a fun one too.
Yeah.
Or the one where the Daleks learn mercy. That's a fun one.
Yeah. That was a fun watch too. You don't expect it at all. You know.
Or Capaldi's haunted house. You remember the haunted house in Capaldi where
Yeah.
I do remember
Billy
that one.
moves into the house and it's haunted.
Awesome.
So
Okay, so we're gonna end the show here, and just remember to follow. It goes down in the PM, an amazing podcast. You want to talk a little bit about what's coming up for your podcast?
oh, definitely. Season 4 is premiering on the 11th, so tune into our YouTube on that. You can find the link in the bio. You can also, find me on my socials. That's at it go down in the PM. That's on Twitter. It goes down in the PM on Instagram, and it goes down in the PM on TikTok. Just hit the link in my bio, and then it'll connect you to our YouTube. And I've got fun guests. I have a new segment where I have a guest come on and we talk about stuff. The season premiere is going to be a lot of fun. You get to watch me make tamales. I
Awesome.
finally had a guest teach me how to make tamales. There's another episode where a guest teaches me how to make lobster. Yes, I do touch the lobster and scream a little. I'm
Oh,
cutting
wow.
the sound though. I'm cutting the sound. I don't care. I took it. I was like, oh God, ew, ew, ew. I'm I'm so terrible. So yeah, season 4, tune in. Season 4, February 11th. That's my episode. That's the hot tamale episode where I have a guest teach me how to make tamales, and then all the other stuff you love. And I might have a surprise for what's TikToking. So, I
Nice.
talked about a TikTok trend. You may or may not see your girl doing a TikTok trend.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you again so much for coming to our show, and we look forward to having you again.
Yeah.
For all of you who are not watching the video, Giancarlos is dancing for us.
Yes. Oh, my YouTube channel is called Mom is Always Right Media Productions, and that's WRIT. So
Awesome. Awesome. And Giancarlos, you're muted.
I said that's so convenient. I can never have an argument with you now.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Just like I said, happy wife, happy life. Also,
Thank
mom is always right.
So you better be happy. Thank you
Awesome.
again, Jolene, for being on our show. We really
All right.
appreciate
I had
all of
such
your
a good
support.
time. I had such a good time. Let
Awesome.
me know if you ever need a guest again. I'm so down.
Well, we got to make a lot of Doctor Who episodes. So
I could
thank you
I
so
could
much.
Okay, Robert. Okay,
I could
Robert.
be your expert. I could be your Doctor Who expert. Do you have a Doctor Who expert yet?
No, you are actually, because I don't think that Robert is. He likes, but he's watching the new stuff. And I don't think that he has rewatched many times the classic ones neither, right?
No, I haven't watched a classic yet. Not yet.
There you go.
I watched the Baker episodes, but I would like to finish the classics.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, and hope to see you all next episode.